All right, I've got something to show you. I'm really excited actually. I've just completed a redesign of Bolton passenger train network station, and it's now an interchange for the suburban train. All stops has always been coming up here, but I've finally got the express train up here. And you might ask, Sims, how did you do that? Well, it wasn't easy, I can tell you. I've also gone back to electrifying the Bracknell service. I had reverted it back to a class 142 diesel, thinking that that might help things out. It didn't. I brought a whole nother train onto the map, and what I was trying to do at the time was to eliminate, so many trains on the map for the file save. So I've taken that back. Okay, let's get into this. The station used to be on this side. It used to cross this road, and one of the big problems that I had is I could not get four tracks to cross from the viaduct across over into the station. And so it needed a full redesign to get four tracks. That was the first problem. The second problem is the tracks that did come across, they just like were a ski ramp, and they dove into the ground as soon as crossing this road here, and it kind of looked ridiculous. By moving across here, I've now got a much more realistic gradient incline here out of the station. It's still, I would say, it's still a little steep, but it's nowhere near like it was in the past. So I'm really happy with that part of the redesign as well. I didn't have to change very much here. Uh, our existing bus terminal was already here, and the station was directly across the road from it. And instead of having, I think my station was like twice as long as this, but that was from back in the day when we had like 400-meter trains running through this station. But um, what's this? This is like 160. This is 200 meters long. I think the station is 240. So that's about 220. And same with the suburban train. Okay. So once I had it up onto the viaduct, all of this remained the same. Same crossing of the road here. The food line is here, and the coal and iron is up here. Iron's on this side, with iron down here. No, here. It's just empty, so I didn't see any because he just left. All right. Now, this is the transfer line here, and we used to go over the top of this. We also went over the top of the Woodham transfer train, and we went over the top of this crude being delivered. And it used to come out of Woodham and be a fairly steep incline to get over these three over the top. But each of them, I just had to raise them just slightly, not very much. This one was just a slight raise, not anything very steep at all. This was already a fairly high track, and that was the high point that the viaduct had to go over. And it was pretty high there. You can imagine that it went over the top of that and then came down to join this here. But now it comes back down to ground level now. And that's not even very extreme on the downside. So I was really happy with this redesign. A little fiddly, took a little bit of time, which is why I didn't record it. Now, one of the problems with doing the extension was I didn't want to put in the effort. I'm kind of lazy sometimes. I really didn't want to go to the effort of putting it in if it wasn't going to hit 300 kilometers an hour. And there was a tight turn here at Woodham coming down a straight line to connect to Maghull. And my thinking was, like straight line, top speed, right? But then I had this tight turn into here where it dropped down to like 200 Ks. Now, at the time, I was like, okay, well, if it terminates here, the speed doesn't matter, it's stopping. And it was terminating here because I could not jump into here with 4 tracks. And it came straight through here into here. And I just kept getting collisions, pillar collisions, all sorts of problems. But once that was solved, then I realized I need to solve the tight turn. So what I've done is I've made a 300 kilometer turn here, which is way off where I had it through the middle here. Couple of redesigned bridges here. The run up to the bridges is not very extreme. This one here is probably a little steeper than the other side, just because of the distance between Maghull and the bridge. It's about, I don't think it's any worse than what it was, the height here. It just, this high point here is doing it a little bit closer because there's sort of still a shadow of the memory of it coming through here. I can picture it crossing here. So it's a little bit further away than here. So maybe a little bit steeper. So a total redesign in the north here with, that is the S's. It is the S-bend to get to the north. Okay, not much has changed on the line in the south. We still have the problem of a merge here, which has the potential for a slowdown along this section of track. So, I have the problem of it crossing the suburban train here at some point. Maybe a raised track out of here and crossing over, running through here and into here might be the answer. It is really high here. Well, when I say really high for this map anyway. So maybe it could branch off and keep the height by crossing over, crossing over, crossing over. It is high here anyway, near the mine. And then maybe taking a dive, fairly steep dive into the station here. Alternatively, a tunnel. There is a bit of height here. Maybe I could dig down into a tunnel here, pop back up on the other side and run ground level through here. Could have a rail crossing here. That's not a road that's being used. It's just a link. We would have a problem here to deal with, but that's less of a problem than the express train being slowed down by these trains here. So I've still got to figure something out with them. I still have a little slowdown here on the corner here. It only affects this coming down to the south. But if I'm going to bring the fuel down here and do some sort of slight redesign, maybe pushing it down further away from this turn might give me the opportunity to enhance that. I made a slight change here. No. I made a slight change here. Okay. I pulled the two high-speed tracks away from the station itself because I had this weird little kink here. This piece here. It does like 264. I was 250, and no matter what I did with it, I just couldn't seem to get it up to 300. The problem is that there's a tunnel here that gives me no room to play with, and the tunnel is to link the fuel refinery to the truck stop. I don't have another way of doing it, I don't think. However, a thought just popped into my head that seems if you end up bringing fuel down to here from the north to link into the south, the mere fact that the fuel ends up coming in here and transfers across to this fuel means fuel could just drop into here from this link, and then you wouldn't need the tunnel, and then you wouldn't need this problem here. Oh, so you might have seen, but I didn't mention, the outside tracks are 292 and not 300 there. And the last change is that the suburban trains here, the two reds, they're crossing just in time because they merge through here as a single line. Only one train through at any time. Now, the Express used to do that. And I looked at it the other day, and the Suburbans were going through no problem, and the Express was being held up almost every single time. And I just thought, that's crazy. Just merge the all-stop Suburban train in, and then let the Express come all the way down here, and even he has to wait a minute to come in. That is much better than waiting all the way up there for a merge. Now, one of the downsides I've noticed of this train, this express train, is the amount of time it takes to unload and to load. And I only have one platform here. And if I could have two, this guy could have been in and unloading while this guy was loading. And so I think I could make the line so much more efficient. You know, there's a couple of little adjustments in speed-wise that I can make, but the biggest adjustment would be giving this guy another platform. And that would mean forcing the oil line, the crude and Alsager crude and oil, across to the right-hand track here, and completely replacing this with, it'd be a nightmare. I'd have to replace this with a platform here. What if I moved, I don't have the ability to put a track there, but what if I had track, then the platform, then the track, then a track, then the platform, then the track? That would be just one track added. and it would be this track. It's actually possible. Oh my God. All right. Possible redesign of, like, if I took over this track. Okay, he's leaving. Let me pause for a second. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Okay, guys. I've been burnt way too many times to not say. Okay, the Kendall to Hemsworth Express is on our left. It is not a real express train, it's a 200-kilometer train. But we've got so much stacking happening down this end of the line, I really need to look at that loading speed as a potential problem here. Yeah. So you can see the single line to our right now is the suburban line, all stations to Swindon. And they don't actually have a lot of trains on their line. So they actually have less trains than what we do. So it's easier for them to get a good timing for crossing, unlike us. We have a much harder time doing it. Track that was just crossing off to the left is our train depot. Yeah, our train depot that's just up here used to cater for very long. Okay, so here's the weird little split, that little jink that I do to the left. Now on the downward run, he would have been affected by a 292 speed limit. On the uphill, we're just hitting 200 now, so it doesn't affect us. It's only on the downhill run that little speed difference could be effective. But in saying that, this train has never run 300 before, so when I made that adjustment, it was good enough, because we've got another slight adjustment coming up, which is even worse, on this corner here on the downward run. So, redesigning this oil platform to our left would be a huge advantage. Now, we're at 235. The Hemsworth Express pulls off to the left here and gets off the main line. And we also have the potential for being slowed down through here if we come up behind one of the blue all stations Staines to Bolton. There's another Hemsworth Express. Now we've actually made it through without bumping in to an all stations train, which means we're coming out of here at 260. And that's the best case scenario that we've just run just now. That's as fast as we can go through here at this point. And in the past, we could hit about 297, 298, just as we pulled into the tight turn in Woodham, where the train would terminate. However, we are coming up on a complete new section of line. There's basically all new track from here. We're doing 289. This used to be fairly steep. It just feels more smoother now, I think. And we would start slowing down in a second to make the tight turn. But instead, I think this train is going to hit 300 around this turn. Now, I messed up, okay? There are a couple of spots through this turn that are actually 299. And as you can see, she might hold out at 299 through this turn for a little while, because I didn't quite get some of the sections at 300. There's a couple of little spots that were $2.99, and I didn't feel like redoing it all because of it. But for the first time on the map, we now have a 300-kilometre train, and we have it coming through Woodham. So we should be able to run 300 all the way from here, all the way to Bolton now. And it shouldn't be too extreme, like it should be fairly level considering what it used to be like. Compared to what it used to be like, this is almost level. We do get a bit of a run here up onto the viaduct. And we're slowing down all the way back here to come into the station. So it's a really long slowdown for this train. I mean, I've never done 300 kilometers before, so, you know, this might be normal. But in saying that, this turn to the left, well, it doesn't matter what speed the turn to the left is, because he had a red light for a train pulling out. So maybe in the future up here even, we might even want an extra platform for loading. We do have the room to do that now, though. This station can be expanded. I purposely just made it nice and as small as I could make it. As you can see, it has a really long load unload. Now I could follow this back. I could follow this back, I think, but not in cab. I'm pretty sure it will run 300 on the way back down, but with those, now I've jumped out of all of the detail, so I don't have speed, and I don't have the info window or anything like that. But I do have a full view of what the trip back looks like. And I've been saving this up. Like, I've obviously I've seen the trains running, but I saved this up for the record because I wanted to save it up. You know, it was a good challenge here to have at the end of the game here to see if I could get a 300k train to run on the map without it beat. Look, anyone can do a 300 train sims. That's not the point. The point was to do it in a way that wasn't cutting through mountains, was not, you know, jumping over 1,000 tracks or elevated the entire way. I wanted to limit. So there's just that section there that was elevated behind us there. And other than a couple of bridges, there's no other elevation on this train. And if I could have made this train 300 without that viaduct that we just passed over, I would have, by the way. Yeah, so achieving it by keeping with the feel of the map, without any tunneling. running outside the train, it doesn't feel like 300. In fact, I think my PS5 is struggling, and I don't seem to feel the real, I don't know, is it just me maybe? Because I was just running in cab. This would be cool if we could hit 300 coming in here, but I'm going to jinx myself, aren't I? We're going to get the Suburban that'll slow us down. Oh, we're almost there, but we're going to get the slowdown for the curve here at the oil station. 298, 299. $300. It flicked 300. I saw it. I saw it. I saw it. It was for a half a second, but we've got a 280 slowdown coming around this station here, which if I do a redesign there, we'll get 300 on the way back down. Damn. Wow. And with the other slowdown that's coming up, I think it means that it won't hit 300 again probably, because we've got a 292 coming through here. We're close. 297. Yeah, 292 through here. But if I don't need the tunnel, that's a whole nother story if the tunnel comes out. And then we're on the brakes now already for coming into Kendal Station. Well, there you go. That's kind of cool. I'm really happy about that. Okay. All that effort, and I got a 300-kilometer-an-hour train. For all you guys doing miles an hour, I'm really sorry. Hey, I have no idea how fast that is in miles, by the way. And so we've got a stop here that's purely waiting for a train to unload with a ridiculous load speed and unload speed. And we've still got 700 here on the platform. Everyone wants to take this train. Hey guys, I hope you didn't mind a bit of a ride along, a little bit of a tour around the new station. I think I'll call that an episode. Thank you very much for joining me today. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye for now.